Monroe's mother had always been much better at starting things than finishing them. When she died, she left behind over 300 canvases, not one of them finished, along with Monroe, who felt pretty unfinished himself. The orphanage allowed him to keep only one painting, and so he chose the unfinished Swan that had always been his mother's favorite. But that night, he woke up to find the swan had disappeared. So he took his mother's silver paintbrush and followed the footprints into a little door he hadn't seen before.
My game lagged. I don't think I've ever seen this game lag. Fish. I think cutting that ledge for a small bit of time would be pretty good. Hippo.
For the first time in weeks, Monroe felt good. He felt even better when the wind pushed him close enough to reach the swan. He was feeling so good, in fact, that he forgot all about his fear of heights. But when the swan wriggled free and Monroe fell over the side, he remembered almost immediately. That might have been the end of Monroe if this were a shorter story, but it isn't, which is why Monroe's troubles were just beginning.
It wasn't a bad level. I split a little bit late, so it's only about 2 seconds, a bit less than 2 seconds. That's pretty good.
Monroe scrambled out of the water and found himself in a massive city with no sign of the Swan or anyone else. Well, except someone's enormous pair of feet. These were attached to a giant who could have been a big help in catching the Swan, but unfortunately, here was the laziest giant who had ever lived, and it was his day off. Having celebrated in his usual way, he was now sleeping it off and quite unable to hear Monroe yelling. While he was looking for a way to wake the giant, Monroe noticed something even better: a floating ship.
That was a bit better. I missed the first ball. Slow getting onto the ladder there. And getting up the ladder. Very good. I didn't even click the crane into place the first time. Whew, that's close. Come on, vines. I have like 4 of them, that's good. At least one of them is guaranteed not to troll me. Oh, that one was in a really nice place. Okay, I think I got it. Dude, it didn't get it? Are you serious? Good job. Really? It was right there. I actually clipped through the vine. Hopefully there's lots of them here at least. There's like nothing in here, dude.
even half finished, the creature had no trouble swallowing up all the king's soldiers, half his zoo, and 3 peppermint gazebos. It was only with the help of his Pectopo and the giant that the king was able to force it into the sea. And though the water remained black for years after, the creature was never seen again on shore. Monroe waved goodbye to the giant and set sail. But no matter how fast he went, the Swan was always just out of reach. And not for the first time that day, Monroe suspected he was being led somewhere. Then they flew into a cloud, and everything went black.
That was a good unfinished Empire. Very good vines.
Monroe sailed on in darkness following the Swan's voice, but he never saw a thing. Not the stars, not the Swan, and certainly not the tree he got stuck in. When the clouds lifted, the Swan was gone, leaving Monroe alone in the middle of an immense forest. Since there was nothing else to be done, he jumped.
Pretty good. Far away from the shoreline.
was tired of creating perfect kingdoms only to attract less than perfect subjects. He decided he'd have to leave a legacy the old-fashioned way, with a family. So he began to build one, starting with a house. The king had never had much luck with people, so instead of trying to find a wife, he painted one. When she opened her eyes, the king was astonished. He had created a female version of himself. The king was in love.
The first block was fine, but for some reason it didn't build. But it's okay, I wasn't too slow anyway. Section. Quick death bump here.
As Monroe stood there trying to think of something to say, the statue shuddered and the hatch slammed shut. And now there was no more need for talking. The king was awake.
Insane time.
Ah, it's you, the boy from my dream. What a strange dream it was. My life's work was being destroyed, and all I could do was watch.
Come, sit here by the fire.
It all began right there, in the house I grew up in. I heard a heavy knocking at the door, just like on the night I left. I opened the door, but there was nothing there, just white space. But when I got outside, disaster. Some miscreant had painted everything. My garden was ruined. And then my statue spoke and said, "Help me! Some little hooligan is running around splattering everything in the garden. I think he's headed for the..." Something got in my mouth. Oh dear. I saw my unfinished labyrinth, abandoned and forgotten, and then the credits appeared.
Your dreams have credits?
Oh yes, and subtitles. And then I saw my beautiful city strangled by those disgusting vines. I built it to stand 100 lifetimes, and instead it'll be buried in one. A monument.
Dude, unbelievable.
Full of weeds.
Wasted like 10 seconds.
Dining hall
Still
was
so
full of
pretty.
people, like the old days. It smelled like roasted goose. For a moment, I was happy. Then suddenly, I was alone
Boxes,
again.
come on.
The world had become cold and dark. I felt my own death rising up around me.
Shit.
I floated past chunks of the house I built, or started building. Scarcely 10 years later, and the whole thing was in ruins. My works were meant to last forever, but most of them will be gone before I am. I was at a funeral. My own, as it turned out. No one was there. Except you. I saw my monument. My last hope of leaving something that would live on after me. And I began to walk towards it. And with each step I took, I got larger. I just kept growing and growing, like a teenager. With a gentle push, my monument crumbled and sank. I saw my life's work laid out in front of me. Soon it would crumble into dust or be painted over by someone who would come after me, the same way I painted over what was here before me. When the universe ended, I knew that everything I'd made was over. And as I sat there, looking out into the darkness, I thought back on all the things I'd built and left unfinished. I realized something. I wasn't sad that it was all gone. I had fun making all that stuff. I would have done it anyway. And then somehow I knew that when I woke up, all my work really would be destroyed. And that's when you showed up. I don't know how you got here, but I'm glad to see you. I have something for you. This brush isn't mine anymore. My work is over. It belongs to you now. I hope it makes you happy and that someday they will say, he is a better man than his father. That door will take you anywhere you want to go. But leave quickly, child. None of this will last for long.
And that night, even though he was very tired, Monroe did something that would have made his mother very happy. He painted.
That was a very good run. Up until King's Dream. I lost 30 seconds on King's Dream.